Hello and welcome to the Let It Ride podcast, coming at you to preview week one in the NFL, which kicks off in just 2 days with my Dallas Cowboys taking on the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. As I did last year, going to come at you with my five best bets each week in the NFL and give out the teaser of the week. So, six bets in total every week. And just this week for week one to commemorate the kickoff to the NFL season, we're going to have bonus picks for that Thursday game between the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Friday game between the Chiefs and Chargers that's taking place in Brazil. So, before we dive in, to my top five picks, just really quickly for that Cowboys Eagles game, I'm going to take the first half under 24 and a half. Neither QB, Dak or Jalen Hurts played in the preseason, so I think you'll see these offenses shaking off some rust. Should be a lower scoring first half. Now, you do have to pay some juice to get that up to 24 and a half. Right now, the first half under 23 and a half is available at plus money, but you could buy this up to 24 and a half, which is a pretty key number in first half total, so you could have a 17-7, a 14-10, land right at 24, and you'd be a winner here. So just to get that juice, if you don't want to pay the minus 132 juice, you could just throw the Eagles to win the game, make it a parlay, first half under 24 and a half, Eagles to win straight up. That pays out at plus 112. So don't think you have to worry about the Cowboys after dealing with all of the Micah Parsons drama this offseason. Don't think they're going to go into Philadelphia and beat the best roster in the NFL. So pretty safe pick there. Eagles money line, first half under 24 and a half, plus 112. That is the first pick of my bonus picks here. The second one here, Chiefs and Chargers under 45 and a half. If you look at these two teams, the last three games that they have played have averaged a total of 29.3 points per game. We used to see some shootouts early on in the Herbert versus Mahomes era for these two teams. That hasn't been the case lately. Both of these teams have kind of reconstructed their offensive philosophy. They like to run the ball. They like the short passing game. They like to work the ball down the field with these slow, methodical drives. I think you're going to see that continue. I typically like to play unders in overseas games as it is. Add into that it's these two teams facing each other, which tend to play games with low totals, so I'm grabbing the under 45 and a half. So the two bonus picks this week's Chiefs Chargers under 45 and a half, Cowboys Eagles first half under, parlay with the Eagles to win the game for plus 112. Diving into the Sunday games, my five best bets for week one. We're going to start with the Giants taking on the Commanders. The Commanders a 6-point favorite at home. The over under sitting at 45 and a half. And I really like what this Giants team did, not just in the offseason, but in the last few years. They've really made a focus on drafting on the defensive line. They add Abdul Carter, I thought was the best player in the draft. They get him with the third overall pick, so good on them. They already have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau on that defensive line. Add to that, this Commanders offensive line is below average, and the defense is not very good at all. They're counting on some aging players and Von Miller and Bobby Wagner, Marshawn Lattimore. I know he's only 29, but corners get old fast in the NFL. The Giants have covered this number, by the way, the plus six. They've covered this number in 12 of the last 13 games against the Commanders. The Commanders have only won by more than 12 one time out of the last 20 games. That's going to feed into the teaser of the week that I'm going to give out in just a little bit. But the Giants always play the Commanders close. It's an improving roster. I know the Commanders were the darlings of the NFL last year, going 12-5, making the NFC Championship game. Jayden Daniels, a budding superstar in this league. But I think the magic does die down for the Commanders this year. I'm not saying that they're going to lose this game, but giving the Giants 6 points, that's just too many points in a division rivalry. The Giants always play the Commanders close, like I said. So first pick of Sunday, we're going to grab the Giants plus 6, and that is going to move us on to the Cardinals taking on the Saints. The Saints, a 6.5-point underdog at home, the over-under sitting at 43. And I think the New Orleans Saints are the worst team in football. They have an aging roster. They lose Derek Carr in the offseason. They spend a second-round pick on Tyler Shuck to try to get a halfway decent, at least starting quarterback. He was projected to be a ready-to-play type of quarterback. He's a 25-year-old rookie, so he was expected to come in ready to play. He lost the preseason battle for the starting QB job to Spencer Rattler, who was the worst starting QB I watched all of last season. So Tyler Shuck couldn't even beat out Spencer Rattler. Things are bad in New Orleans. I think they are tanking. I think they want to get in on Arch Manning, even though they destroyed Archie Manning's career, his grandfather. I think they are all in on trying to get Arch Manning. They have the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. On the other side, this Cardinals team usually starts off the season pretty strong. Kyler Murray usually performs well in the warmer months early on in the season. Last year, this Cardinals defense was top 12 in DVOA. They add Josh Sweat, reuniting him with Jonathan Gannon. They add Walter Nolan and Will Johnson on the defensive side of the ball in the draft. I thought two first round talents. So plugging a lot of talent into a defense that was already really good last year. The Saints allowed the third most yards per rush in the league last season, and the Cardinals had the seventh best rushing attack in the NFL last year. So this is a strength versus weakness matchup. Like I said, the Saints roster not very good. Have no faith in Spencer Rattler. I think the Cardinals absolutely stomped the Saints here in week one. Give me the Cardinals -6.5. And the first two games we discussed, those are going to also be the teaser of the week this week. We're going to tease the Cardinals down to -1/2 point, tease the Giants up to +12. Like I said, the Commanders have only beaten the Giants by more than 12 points. One out of the last 20 times they've met. So really like the chances here. The Cardinals just have to win the game. Giants +12. That is the teaser of the week. And that is going to move us on to the Panthers taking on the Jaguars. The Jaguars, a 3.5 point favorite at home. The over-under sitting at 46.5. And both of these teams had absolutely atrocious defenses last year, both bottom five in the NFL as far as points per game allowed. In fact, the Panthers allowed the most points ever in the history of the NFL. No team in the history of football allowed more points than the 2024 Carolina Panthers. They didn't really make any moves to improve the defense. So I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. This is a battle of scrutinized number one overall picks in Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence. So these guys do have the talent. They're facing bad defenses. I think this total is kind of reflecting the fact that these are two pretty mediocre to below average offenses. But when you're facing a really bad defense, particularly in the secondary, I really think both of these secondaries are bad. I know that the Jags add Travis Hunter, but you're counting on him playing both sides of the ball in his first game, stepping in right away, making a difference. I don't see it. I think you could see Ted McMillan have a big day for the Panthers. And of course, Brian Thomas Jr. having a breakout rookie season last year. I think he continues that. I think this game is going to be a shootout with two bad defenses and two at least talented quarterbacks, even if they haven't lived up to the number one overall pick billing. They at least had the talent to warrant that number one overall pick. So I'm going to bet on that here over 46.5 in Panthers Jags. And that is going to move us on to the Panthers taking on the Colts. The Colts, a 1 point favorite at home, the over under sitting at 47. The Colts are a 1 point favorite at home. The Colts have not won a week one game in 12 years. They are 0-11, excuse me, 0-10-1. They had a tie in week one a few years back. So 0-10-1 in their last 12 week one games. You have a healthy Tua, healthy Tyreek against a bad Colts secondary playing on the fast track. I know this is a home game for the Colts, but playing indoors in the dome really benefits the Dolphins roster type more than it benefits the Colts. You have the speedsters in Tyreek Hill and Devon Chain. I think you see that quick passing game really get to this bad Colts secondary. This Colts team, they used to have a couple of calling cards that they could call on. They used to be that team that was a quarterback away. You know, they had Michael Pittman, they had Jonathan Taylor, they had a stellar offensive line, they had a good defensive line. That offensive line, they've lost a ton of guys. It's really just Quentin Nelson that's left over from that old regime that was one of the best O-lines in football. Now they're, league average at best. On the other side of the ball, you have DeForest Buckner, you have Grover Stewart. That still is a strength at defensive tackle, but both of these guys are getting a little bit older. Plus, that really isn't going to help them against this Dolphins offense that likes to move the ball outside, get the ball out quick on those outside passes, swing the ball out to Devon Chain, and use their speed. I think the Dolphins win this game with ease. Give me the Dolphins +1 here on the road against the Colts. Finally, we're going to cap things off here with the Texans taking on the Rams. The Rams, a 3 point favorite at home, the over-under sitting at 43.5. And Matthew Stafford dealing with back issues all offseason, hasn't taken a snap in the preseason. I think he's going to be shaking off the rust here against this Texans team, who I think they're the best secondary in the NFL. Add in, they had Will Anderson, a budding superstar at pass rusher. Christian Kirk, they add in the offseason from the Jaguars. They also had Jaden Higgins in the draft. So two wide receivers coming in. The one knock you had on this offense, especially with the injury to Tank Dell, is that Nico Collins was really their only receiver You give CJ Stroud two more weapons in Kirk and Higgins. I know this offensive line still isn't great, and that is a concern, particularly against Jared Verse in this really good Rams front. But I think the addition of the weapons is really going to help CJ Stroud. They get rid of Laramie Tunsil, who I think was a negative on this offensive line. Speaking of which, another offensive line we talked about, he goes to the Commanders. So they're trying to fix their problem with another player's problem, which kind of lends itself to my pick of the Giants +6 in that game, but I digress. This Texans offensive line, maybe some addition by subtraction, losing Tunsil, a banged up Matthew Stafford. They're counting on Devontae Adams is on his third team in as many years. I just don't see it working there. Give me the Texans +3. I think the Rams, maybe they figure things out later down the line this season. They do have a pretty easy schedule, but this is not an easy week one game. I think the Texans are one of the best teams in the AFC. Don't understand why they're laying 3 points in this game. So Texans +3. So just to recap all of my picks, I'm taking the Texans +3 against the Rams, the Dolphins +1 against the Colts, the over 46.5 in Panthers Jaguars. I'm taking the Cardinals -6.5 against the Saints. The Giants +6 against the Commanders, and the teaser of the week, teasing the Cardinals down to -0.5 point, teasing the Giants up to +12. And of course, my bonus picks for the early games, taking the Cowboys Eagles first half under and the Eagles to win the game. That parlay pays out at +112. Finally, taking the Chiefs and Chargers under 45.5 in Brazil. That is going to do it for my picks and for the podcast. Thank you to everybody for listening, and I will see you guys next week.